Okay, and now let's write some code and store this output inside a variable that we're going to call row. Okay, so if we store this inside row, we're going to have an issue. And the reason why is because, well, our condition is fine, so we're going to be okay checking the condition. But let's say we call this first time, so it's going to call row number 1. Okay, but once we want to store the outputs of the function inside our row variable, this is going to be actually the second call of our function, and it's going to give us row number 2. So to avoid that, we are going to check the condition and also store the variable inside the while. Okay, so what we're going to do, we are going to set row to this value inside the while statement. Okay, so the while statement is actually going to check the value of this only. Okay, so this is going to be equivalent to this. It's exactly the same, but we're just adding that, okay, on top to store this inside our row variable. Okay, so at the end of the day, we're just checking this for the while, and at the same time we are storing the outputs of that inside the row. All right, so it's really important to understand this. So now what we want to do, we would like to print our row. Okay, so let's print a paragraph before that. So we're gonna echo a paragraph every time, saying the row number. So for example, we can write row number, and we're going to use a variable count. Okay, so this variable, we're going to set it before starting the while loop. So we're going to set it to 0, and every time we go inside the loop, we are going to increment our count variable by 1. Okay, and then after the paragraph, we're going to print our row using print underscore r function. All right, so now if we save and refresh the page, then this is what we get. So row number 1, we can see the row there with all the values inside. Number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and once we get to the 6th check, then this becomes the output of the fetch array function becomes null. Okay, and basically the loop is going to stop there. All right. All right, so now rather than printing the rows, we are going to use the values inside the rows, so that we can put all the values inside an HTML table. Okay, so we want the result to be an HTML table with headers just like this. Okay, and all the values inside the rows of the table. Okay, so what we're going to do, so let's comment the count variable, and also we don't want this anymore. Okay, so if we have if the number of rows is greater than 0, okay, we are going to start our table here. So we're gonna echo our the start of our table tag. Okay, and then we're gonna have the first row corresponding to the headers. Okay, so let's build our headers. So we're gonna have 5 headers. Okay. So the first one is going to be the ID, and then the first name, then the last name, and then the email and the password. Okay. Okay. We'll close the table tag at the end. Okay. So while we are cycling through the rows of the result set, we are going to, rather than printing the row, we're going to print rows of the table. Okay. So let's just add some styling to the table before we carry on. So I'm gonna give the table a few Bootstrap classes. Okay, so we're gonna give it a class table and also table stripped, table hover, table condensed, okay, and table bordered. If you want to review these classes, just go back to the Bootstrap table video. So bordered. Okay. So now while we're cycling through the rows of our result set, so we are going to echo a line every time, a table line. So first of all, we're gonna echo the start of the tag, okay, or the open tag, and then we are going to echo the first value corresponding to the ID. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna have the table data tag, okay, and then we're gonna add the value, which is going to be row, and we're going to the elements of key ID, okay, which is this one. And then the second table data, or let's close the table data tag, okay, like this. All right. And now let's duplicate this, and this time we are going to use the first name, and then the last name, and then the email, and then the password. Okay. And now we are ready to close our table row tag. Okay. Here we go. So every time we are printing a row, okay, and once we finish the while loop, we need to close the table tag. We need to print the close tag of our table, and it's going to be right after we get out of the while loop, just here. Okay. Okay. Just to make this more readable, I'm just going to push these a little bit forward. Okay, that looks better. And normally would add an extra statement here to close the result set. Okay. And this means that we are just going to be freeing the memory used by the result set, and this function is going to be MySQLi free results. Okay, so it just frees the memory associated with our result set. So let's use this function. I'm going to copy it. Okay, and it's going to take as a parameter our result set or our results variable. Okay. All right. So we're doing all this if the number of results is greater than 0. Otherwise, we are just going to echo a paragraph saying that's the SQL query returned an empty result set. Okay. MySQL returned an empty result set, which means 0 rows. Okay. Okay, and if we check this curly brackets, it starts here. So if the query is executed successfully, okay. So else, if not, we are going to echo another paragraph, okay, saying that we were unable to execute the query. Okay, so enable to execute the query, and let's just add the query here. Okay, and then we need to print the error. Okay, just to do that, we can just add it here like this, and the error is going to be printed using the MySQLi error function, MySQLi underscore error function, which takes as a parameter our link variable. Okay, so this returns the last error, okay, encountered in the code. Okay, so now let's save our code and have a quick look before we refresh the page. So, okay, we're missing a semicolon there. Okay, so let's refresh our page now. Okay, and now we can see that we've got a table, and we can see inside our table all the values, okay, corresponding to the values inside the returned or the rows of our result sets. Okay. Okay, so now we can play with the data. So if you go to our previous file, okay, and add some records, then we can see the results straight away in this page. So let's add a new record. Okay. For example, Steve Jobs, and let's use capital letters, and email steve@gmail.com, for example, and the password. Okay, and if we send the data, so we've got the record added successfully. And now if we refresh our page, we can see the new record there. Okay. And just a quick comment regarding the passwords. We are getting the passwords like this because that's how we store them in our database. But if we want to get the original passwords, then we just need to apply again the MD5 function. Okay, and we'll see this in detail, okay, when we do our projects later on. Okay, so in the next video, we're gonna learn how to update data.